So today I'd like to talk to you about something I know a lot about, women's clothing. Okay, I really don't know a lot about that. But it's been in the news a lot lately, mainly because of several cases up in Canada where young teen girls were asked by their school systems to go home and change. Why? Because in the hot weather, wearing strapless dresses or shirts with thin straps that showed their bra straps, or short shorts, they were exposing too much of their bodies, and what this meant, of course, was that the boys would be distracted. In other words, it would impact the boys' ability to learn. Is this fair? No, not in the slightest. Now, these cases were up in Canada, but they ain't got nothing on us here in the USA. This is par for the course. All too often, we police female behavior, and specifically what they're wearing, because we say it has a detrimental effect on boys and or causes male behavior, i.e. specifically often sexual assault and sexual violence, as if they are responsible for male arousal, and as if sexual assault is about male arousal or male sexual release, as opposed to power, control, and domination of others. Over the years in workshops, males have made comments about female bodies, and specifically female clothing in relation to sexual violence. A few years ago at the UW-Madison campus, someone quipped about how a female was sort of really wanting to draw attention to her body. He didn't exactly say she was asking for it, but it was inferred. This is how I replied. I have a sister. I don't. It's a lie that I tell at workshops, but only because I'm trying to make a point. I have a sister, and she's getting ready to go out on a date with a guy, and she asked my advice on what to wear. So I'm going to point to my body, starting here, and I'm going to move my finger down, and I want you all to stop me when you think that it's crossed the line in terms of where the neckline should be on her dress. And then I will actually slide my finger down my, shirt, and invite people to stop me here, here or here. And it's an exercise, of course, but it's a great conversation starter in terms of where is that line? What does it mean for someone to wear a dress with the neckline here versus here versus here? Does she lose her right to say no when she's holding the dress up in front of her in the mirror thinking about putting it on, after she's put it on, or after she's put it on and left her bedroom to go out for the date for the evening? Questions like these help to illuminate the ridiculousness of these laws or rules that we seem to live by about women's bodies and what they wear and what they wear means. Why do we even think that what a woman wears matters at all? Statistically, the fact is that women wearing nuns' habits, i.e. dressed from head to toe, have been sexually assaulted. For that matter, women who are physically or cognitively impaired and are wheelchair-bound have been sexually assaulted. Really doesn't matter what someone is wearing. Too often, what someone is wearing is used as an excuse by the perpetrator or by rape deniers to brush aside what's actually happening. During the infamous 2004 Super Bowl halftime show, Justin Timberlake ripped off part of the bustier worn by Janet Jackson. Now, when this happened, of course, there was a great uproar, both in the press and in social media. Absent from much of the commentary and discussion around that time was the fact that that happened because of a wardrobe malfunction. Part of the bustier was ripped off that was supposed to remain in place. But if that malfunction hadn't happened, the choreography still called for Timberlake to rip off part of her clothing to the lyric, "I'm going to have you naked by the end of this song." In other words, once again, we critiqued the fact that we saw naked female body parts. We critiqued the nudity, but we didn't critique the choreography or the playing out of essentially a rape fantasy as part of a halftime entertainment show. This past Friday morning on the ABC show The View, the cast took up reviewing or discussing some of these recent news events from Canada and some of the social media discussion around women's bodies, women's clothing, school dress codes, etc. While they did touch upon the idea that they wanted girls and females to be free to express themselves, there nevertheless was some dialogue around the sort of caution over they've got to be careful. Sherry Shepard in particular said, and I'm paraphrasing here, something to the effect of, while they should feel free to express themselves, they have to be aware that what they wear sends signals, and they have to be careful. Now, as of this taping, I'm paraphrasing because the video and transcript of this show is not yet available online, so I can't verify what she said. I was sitting on my couch watching it at the time, and I was a little taken aback. I so wish I had been sitting at the desk with the viewcast, and I could have turned to Sherry and I would have said something like, I agree, and while we're at it, I think people of color should be careful what they say, lest they piss off white people. You know, what they say to white people can send signals. Okay, I'm trying to make a point here. The point being that when we take one group, the target group if you will, and we tell them to police their behavior, lest they have an effect on the non-target or privileged group, all we're doing is reinforcing that privilege, especially if we don't also take that privileged group and have them examine their privilege, talk about their privilege, examine their boundaries, their reaction, or their behavior. And again, in the field of sexual assault, when we're talking about specifically women's bodies versus male behavior, this is too often what we do. We critique female clothing and we don't critique male behavior. We don't teach boys how to be in charge of their own reaction, be responsible for their reaction and their feelings, and to not hold females accountable or responsible for that. I, have all respect for Ms. Shepard, who has made me laugh on The View and on 30 Rock. And pointing this out is merely to say that all of us have ways of falling into this trap. This stuff, once again, is so much a part of our culture that we sometimes don't see it because we're so close to it. This is water.